Spring 2020. The world held its breath. In a matter of weeks, a microscopic virus brought civilization to its knees. Cities emptied, borders closed, millions fell ill. And in that vacuum of fear and uncertainty, something else began to spread. Not through cough or touch, but through fiber optic cables and satellite signals. A different kind of contagion. A virus of the mind. When COVID hit, we were dealing with two pandemics simultaneously. One was biological, the other was informational. And in many ways, the second one was just as dangerous as the first. This is the story of how fear, distrust, and the most powerful communication technology in human history collided to create one of the strangest conspiracy theories of our time. The belief that COVID-19 and 5G wireless networks were somehow connected. But to understand this conspiracy, we first need to understand how we got here. September 11th, 2001. The last time America experienced a collective trauma of this magnitude. In the aftermath, conspiracy theories flourished, inside jobs, controlled demolitions, hidden agendas. The attacks opened a wound in the American psyche, and into that wound, doubt poured like poison. Dr. Pierce 9/11 created a template for conspiratorial thinking that we're still living with today. It taught people to question official narratives, to look for hidden patterns, to believe that what we're being told is never the whole truth. COVID activated that same impulse, but on an even larger scale. For years before COVID, a foundation was being laid. Books like Kevin Trudeau's bestseller promoted the idea that mainstream medicine was hiding cures, that pharmaceutical companies profited from sickness, that natural remedies were being suppressed. The title itself was a manifesto. Natural cures they don't want you to know about. Who were they? The answer was always vague, always sinister. Doctors, government, big pharma, the establishment. I believed it all, every word. I thought doctors were just pill pushers for the pharmaceutical industry. I thought they were keeping us sick on purpose because healthy people don't make the money. So when COVID came, I was primed. I was ready to believe that this was all part of something bigger. Enter 5G, the fifth generation of wireless technology, faster data speeds, lower latency, the backbone of the future internet. But to some, these towers represented something far more sinister. 5G had been a source of anxiety long before COVID. People worried about radiation, about electromagnetic frequencies, about health effects. There were protests, petitions, even attacks on cell towers in some countries. The technology was new, and new equals scary for a lot of people. As early as 2019, videos circulated online showing birds falling from the sky near 5G towers, dead fish washing ashore, people experiencing mysterious symptoms. The claims were dramatic. 5G radiation was making us sick. It was causing cancer, infertility, neurological damage. Scientists debunked these claims repeatedly, but the videos kept spreading. Then came January 2020. Reports emerged from Wuhan, China, of a mysterious pneumonia. Within weeks, it had a name: COVID-19. And almost immediately, the conspiracy theory began to take shape. The logic, if you could call it that, went something like this. Wuhan was one of the first cities to deploy 5G technology. COVID emerged in Wuhan. Therefore, 5G must have caused COVID. It was correlation masquerading as causation, but in the fog of a global pandemic, it resonated. Dr. Pierce, a 2020 study published in Media International Australia, examined this phenomenon. What they found was that the conspiracy theory had multiple versions. Some claimed that 5G electromagnetic frequencies weakened the immune system, making people more susceptible to the virus. Others went further, suggesting that COVID symptoms were actually radiation sickness from 5G exposure, and that the virus itself might not even exist. By April 2020, the theory had jumped from social media to real-world violence. In the United Kingdom, cell phone towers were vandalized and set ablaze. Engineers installing equipment received threats. The situation became so serious that the British government issued official statements debunking the conspiracy. I was just trying to do my job, upgrading equipment so people could stay connected during lockdown. And I had people screaming at me, telling me I was murdering their families. One guy said I had blood on my hands. It was terrifying. As vaccine development accelerated, the conspiracy evolved. It grew darker, more elaborate, and it centered on one man, Bill Gates. Gates, through his foundation, had become one of the world's leading vaccine philanthropists. He had warned about pandemic preparedness in a famous TED Talk years before COVID. To conspiracy theorists, this was proof of foreknowledge, even involvement. And when he spoke about digital vaccination certificates to track who had been immunized, the theory metastasized. The new version claimed that COVID vaccines contained microchips, tracking devices that would connect to 5G networks, allowing Bill Gates, the government, or some shadowy global elite to monitor everyone's movements, thoughts, and actions. It was surveillance disguised as medicine. The pandemic was the excuse. The vaccine was the weapon, and 5G was the infrastructure of control. As a scientist, hearing this was surreal. We were working around the clock to develop life-saving vaccines, and people thought we were plotting to install tracking chips in their bodies. The scale of the distrust was staggering, but as CNBC and numerous fact-checkers pointed out, the theory had a fundamental problem: physics. 5G chips are far too large to fit through a vaccine syringe needle. Even the smallest RFID chips that could theoretically fit would require a power source, a battery that would never make it through the needle's opening. This is a 5G chip. This is a vaccine syringe needle. You can see the problem immediately. It's not even close. And beyond the size issue, these chips need power. They need antennas. They need to communicate with cell towers. The technology just doesn't exist to do what the conspiracy theory claims. But here's the thing about conspiracy theories. They're not really about facts. They're about feelings, fear, loss of control, the need to make sense of chaos. When you're scared and overwhelmed, a clear narrative, even a false one, is more comforting than uncertainty. Maria. I was in Facebook groups with thousands of people who all believed the same things I did. We shared videos, articles, memes. Anyone who questioned us was a sheep, a bot, or a paid shill for Big Pharma. We had answers for everything. Every debunking just proved the conspiracy went deeper. It was like being in a cult, but you don't realize it until you're out. The conspiracy had real consequences. Vaccine hesitancy soared. Public health workers faced harassment. Cell tower technicians feared for their safety, and misinformation spread faster than the virus itself. We were fighting two battles, one against a virus we were learning about in real time, and another against misinformation that traveled at the speed of light. And I'm not sure we won either one. Today, years after the pandemic began, we can look back with clearer eyes. COVID-19 was not caused by 5G. Vaccines do not contain tracking chips. Bill Gates is not surveilling the world through cell phone towers. These facts are demonstrable, verifiable, and widely accepted by the scientific community. I got COVID in December 2020. I was sick for 3 weeks, and lying in bed, barely able to breathe, I realized this is real. This isn't radiation sickness. This isn't made up. I'd been so wrong about so much, and when I finally got vaccinated, I cried. Not because I was scared of a chip, but because I was grateful to be protected. But here's what concerns me. We didn't learn. The conditions that created the COVID 5G conspiracy are still here. The distrust, the algorithms, the polarization. Next time, and there will be a next time, we'll face the same challenges, possibly worse. Dr. Watkins. The tragedy is that legitimate questions about technology, about public health, about corporate power, they get drowned out by conspiracy theories. We should be having thoughtful conversations about data privacy, about vaccine distribution equity, about how we regulate new technologies. Instead, we're arguing about whether 5G causes pandemics. What I hope people take away from this is not that they should trust everything they're told by authorities. Skepticism is healthy. But there's a difference between skepticism and cynicism, between questioning and denying reality. We need to find our way back to a shared set of facts, or we're in serious trouble. The COVID-19 pandemic will be remembered as a defining moment of the 21st century. The death toll, the economic devastation, the social upheaval, but it should also be remembered as a wake-up call about the fragility of truth in the digital age. The 5G conspiracy theory wasn't just a bizarre footnote to a global crisis, it was a symptom of something deeper, a crisis of trust, of information, of our ability to distinguish fact from fiction when we need it most. We built the most powerful communication network in human history. We can send information around the world in milliseconds, but we forgot to build something equally important: the wisdom to know what's worth sharing. The next pandemic will come. The next crisis will arrive. The question is, will we be ready? Not just with vaccines and ventilators, but with something more fundamental: the ability to think clearly when fear tells us to panic, to seek truth when lies are more comforting, to remember that our greatest threats often come not from towers in the sky, but from the stories we tell ourselves. For more stories that challenge what you think you know, subscribe to Beyond the Forgotten, exploring the hidden truths behind the world's greatest mysteries.